Hi Will.
Hi Graham.
Good to see you.
You too.
Hi, I'm Graham Taylor. I'm here today for the first video in our series, Let's Cook. Let's Cook is a series that is going to be about the challenges in food production. Today, I'm here talking to Will. Your passion is amazing, the podcast is amazing. I want to hear more about that. I want to hear more about life on your farm, what it's like. And we're going to be looking at the issue of EU consumers and food. You know, what do they know about food? What is their attitude towards food? And what challenges do we face when it comes to food production in the modern age? What do you say? Let's cook. So Will, the summer has finally arrived in Belgium.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sunny day outside. So we don't want to be eating something heavy. We want to have something that's fresh.
Perfect.
So we've got a lot of really great ingredients here in front of us. Some of them you'll recognise, I guess, from your own farm even.
Barley right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
We're going to put this into the water. We've got some boiling water there. Be in there for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll just throw that in there now. Put a little bit in there. That'll do. And while I'm doing that, maybe it's a good opportunity for us to talk a bit about your farm and what you do. And I mean, barley obviously is one of the crops that you grow, but tell me a bit about how do you go about growing barley and what are the challenges that you face when you're doing it?
It's been a pretty good year, though we could have done with a bit more rain to fill out the grains a little bit.
Yeah.
It hasn't been the worst growing season where we are.
Yeah.
I know some areas of the country have had it a bit tougher, but there's a lot of barley growing around us, but it is a difficult crop to grow.
Right. What makes it so difficult?
Because everything wants to kill it. The same as any other farmer will tell you. You put all this investment into your crop, and then you leave it standing out there in the weather, and there's a million things that want to destroy it. But I mean, we had a terrible problem in, I think it was 2010. It was a very, very humid season, and the aphids, barley yellow dwarf virus, pretty much wiped out our entire barley crop.
Wow.
And that was not a good year. And it's quite difficult to explain. You put such a lot of effort into growing these crops as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're investing.
It's not just the money. It's you are emotionally invested.
Yeah, sure.
And there's an awful lot of work, and there's nothing better than you go out there and you plough the field and you get this wonderful seed bed and you put all your blood and sweat and your hope for the year into this crop, and then it gets wiped out just like that.
So what kind of, if you don't mind me asking, what percentage of your business in that year, for example, was kind of lost because you lost that whole crop?
I guess about 20%.
Wow, that's a big chunk. Right?
You know, just one little thing, or it seems like a little thing, but you know, it's so easily to control it. We're using as little pesticides and artificial fertilizers as we have to.
Sure.
There's a million things want to kill my crops, and I have to use these things. They're just a tool. Like you have a box of tools in your workshop, that's what they are. I think there's a growing appetite, not just with consumers, but farmers as well, especially in the UK. So we're very conscious at the moment of that maybe mistakes have been made in the past, hedgerows have been pulled out. I have 4 children. I want my farm to be in a better condition when I pass it on to them.
Okay, right. Well, let's get these tomatoes into the bowl. Chuck those in there. Expertly chopped, I have to say. Beautiful. Right, let's move those out of the way and let's get these onions in. So often I see people who, you know, you stop here.
You want to go with the middle.
Exactly. You take the nice white bit, you leave the rest, but the rest is every bit as good. So we want to make sure that we're using it all.
Okay.
All right. Food waste is, again, you know, don't chop your fingers off.
I will try not to.
Food waste it's such a big issue. I mean, it must almost break your heart as a farmer, sort of putting all that effort into producing food, and then to see just tons and tons and tons go to waste.
Absolutely, but what's good is that people are talking about it now, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's become a thing where it's on TV. People are talking about it all the time. Yep. I think there's growing awareness, and a lot of the supermarkets are even waking up to it, aren't they? And They're suddenly, I mean, you look in the UK, there's food banks, there's areas that are really struggling, and it does, and you see that food waste, and you think it's immoral, it's criminal.
Right, Will, we've got this beautiful plate here of chopped up veggies. So first thing, we've got the fava beans, which we boiled.
Yeah.
We've popped those out of the skin, so we've got those there. We've got our peas, beautifully cut up radishes, expertly crushed garlic. Well done. So we're going to leave those there. I'll just pop that fava bean on there. Next thing we're going to do is lemons.
Yeah.
Go chopping that one up. What you do, little trick here.
Oh, okay.
Onto the board.
Yeah.
Palm of your hand and just give it a bit of a push backwards and forwards.
See, I'm really learning here. Yeah, right. Okay.
You know, you're learning lots. I'm learning lots. Yeah. It's great. And then we'll chop it up. But you know, the climates that they have to grow is citrus fruits in. It makes it's really difficult, and they lose up to about 40% of their yield if they're not able to use the right solutions.
Yeah.
The challenge is people think that it's simple. You stick a tree in the ground, you leave it, and wow, hey presto, some lemons appear.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case.
And once again, in those areas, the community would be reliant on it. It's not just the farmers and the growers, is it? No. There's the people who supply them and the knock-on effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do something called FaceTime Farmer.
Yeah, so
FaceTime Farmer.
It's the brainchild of a farmer called Tom Martin, and he came up with this idea of through FaceTime and Skype, and we've all got these supercomputers in our pockets now, haven't we? That just weren't there a few years ago.
It's true.
And the idea was
that a bit of mix up while you're talking.
The idea was that teachers, schools could sign up to it, and they would be paired up with a farmer who's volunteered, and every couple of weeks, you speak to them for 10 or 15 minutes on your farm. This is what we're doing now. This is why we're doing it. Yeah. I mean, and I've spoke to a couple of classes of children. I spoke to a class of 6 and 7 year olds the other day. Yeah. And the questions they had, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean,
to be honest, I absolutely love about talking to you, Will. I mean, your passion, it just comes through. It's absolutely fantastic, and we need more people like you talking about food and how it's produced and getting people interested, because one of the advantages, one of the things you've taken advantage of is the ability to use a tool like a blog or like Twitter to reach people.
If we don't tell our stories, then someone else will. Yeah. Someone else who isn't involved in food production will tell the story for us.
You've got to do it.
And it's not about butting heads with people. It's just about putting out our story and giving people, crediting them with enough intelligence to see that we've got nothing to hide.
Sure. Right, let's end there, Will. We've got everything ready. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to plate it up, and you see what I'm doing. I'm going to hand it over to you.
I will attempt to copy.
Attempt to do it on your plate. I'm sure it'll look great. And at the same time, as we're doing that, I wanted to hear a bit more about your podcast and what it is and kind of why you do it and the kind of people that you speak to as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've done 71 now.
71?
71 podcasts. Wow. So try and do one every week. Yeah. How's that? Is that okay?
That's schmeartastic. Schmeartastic, what can I say? I maybe just created a new word.
Yeah, and I mean, I speak to such a variety of people. I mean, one of the reasons, quite a few reasons why I started, but one of them was you kind of have this perception of farmers, especially in the UK, of it being maybe all wheat, cows and sheep, depending on where you are. Sure. But there's so much more to it than that. There's so many more people stories, and there's just so many people doing such interesting things. Yeah. It can be quite hard to get them to talk and come out themselves. But as soon as you start talking about what they're passionate about, which is usually their livestock or their crops or what their diversification they've done, you can't stop them talking, and they're away, and they're just so passionate about what they do. And these are very highly successful people that could really work in any industry, and they've chosen to come into agriculture and produce food because that's what they're passionate about. And being able to speak to them and learn more about their lives and what they're doing is a privilege, really. Yeah. And I just love getting the chance to share their stories, really.
There's some thyme as well. We'll pick a couple of leaves off there and put those on. So what do you, I mean, you as a farmer, what do you think the biggest, I guess, consumer misunderstanding is when it comes to the way that you produce food?
I think they think maybe, and again, as I said earlier, it's entirely not their fault. I think we've been very poor at farmers at getting across what we do.
Some curry leaves on there.
God, doesn't that smell amazing?
Yeah.
And I think perhaps people maybe don't realise, because we're so many generations removed now from farmers in people's families, you know, people don't, the vast majority of the people out there don't necessarily know a farmer or people involved in food production. So, as we all do these days, and I'm as guilty of it as anyone, you hear a news story and then you may read a couple of features online and you think that you know it all about a subject. Yeah, but usually it's
280 characters on Twitter tell you everything that you need to know.
Exactly, and that's kind of the modern curse, isn't it? But once you start digging into something, and you need to really speak to the people involved, and I think sometimes people think, they forget that the food they're eating at the supermarkets is the food that I'm eating. I have 4 small children. Yeah. A safe and affordable food supply is important to me. I shop at the supermarket the same as you do and same as everyone else does. I haven't got I'm not keeping all the best stuff for myself, but you know.
So Will, we've made our salad. You're clearly a great cook. I think you're hiding your light under a bushel, claiming that you're not a good cook.
I'm going to tell my wife that you said that.
Right, we're gonna try some of this food, and while we have a chat, I'll pour you a bit of this wine, because what better with a salad, a good crisp Alsatian white wine. So I hope you've enjoyed the experience. I've had a fascinating time talking to you, really.
It's been fantastic. I didn't chop my finger off, and
bonus,
and I got to talk about what I love doing, and that's farming and food production and the people involved. So yeah, I've had a great time.
So hashtag with or without. Encourage you all to engage with us there, ask questions, and take part in the debate online. Give us comments on what you thought about what I've said, about what Will said. Yeah,
I'm always happy to answer questions on food production and farming in the UK and what I do. If anyone ever wants to ask me anything, please feel free. You can follow me on Twitter. That's my social media of choice. And if you wanted to listen to the podcast, it is rockandrollfarming.com, or just search Google or any good podcast app.
So hashtag with or without, or listening to Will at Rock and Roll Farming. This has been the first episode of Let's Cook. Thanks very much for watching, and now Will, let's dig in.